Andrew, what is escrow?
So escrow is kind of like your mom on your birthday when you were a kid. So when you're a little kid, opening up all your envelopes and birthday cards, you start having all this money fall out on your lap, and you start just gathering it and handing it to your mom because you don't want to lose it, right? And you're a little kid, all you want is toys anyways. So you give all the money to your mom, and she takes care of it. And then when the time comes, you ask for it, and she gives it to you. So what happens is when you get into contract to buy a house, you put your deposit, and that all goes into an escrow account. So they actually cash your check, hold it into a separate account that the sellers have no access to. And then at the very end, once it's all settled and you're ready to close, then they give the money to the seller.
Who decides on the escrow company?
So typically the buyer gets to decide what company to use, but in most situations, it's one of the agents, either the listing agent or the buying agent.
What are the typical escrow costs?
It kind of depends on the loan amount. So one of the questions they ask right away is, what's the loan amount? And then they base it on that, because basically it's part of insurance. So they're insuring the lender based on the loan amount.
How do you initially pay for escrow? Like, how do I start?
Well, everything's included. So they give you a very itemized statement on where all the fees are going. But when you first open up escrow, you're basically putting in, it's called an EMD, which is like an earnest money deposit. And then it's like an all encompassing. So that money is going towards the whole.
And how much is that typically, the EMD?
It doesn't have to be much. It could be $1,000, $5,000, but for a very strong offer on a home, you're looking at 3% of the purchase price.
Got it. Is that refundable? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's refundable up to a point. So, in my whole career, I've never lost anyone's deposit. But once the buyer releases all their contingencies, which are inspection, appraisal, and loan, at that point, it becomes non-refundable.
So when do you pay? How does paying the rest of escrow, what does that look like?
So yeah, after your lender sends in your final documents to the title company, they put together an estimated closing statement. And then once you have that figure, you can either wire in the money or do a cashier's check.
Got it. What are the different ways that you can pay?
Most of the time it's going to be a wire through your bank. But in some cases you can just do a cashier's check.
Can I have anyone pay, or can it come from a random bank account, or?
Everything has to be tracked and kind of paper trailed, but it can come from multiple places. So I have a lot of first-time buyers that their parents help them out, or it could be like an aunt or an uncle. And so they can actually wire in part or all of the money, depending on what loan program.
What's the typical open close timeline? Like, how long is escrow? What does that look like?
Yeah, so the common phrases you hear is like open escrow, close escrow. So once you have a ratified contract between the buyer and seller, the buying agent is supposed to open up escrow within 3 days and put in the deposit. And then once everything is settled out and everyone's been paid, they basically close the file, and then escrow is closed.
How long does that usually take?
The typical is 30 days. It could be a little bit less or more. If it's an all cash transaction, it's usually less, usually maybe 10 to 15 days.
Those cash buyers. When do I get the keys after, the most important part is when do we get the keys to the house?
Yeah, so another common term is funded and recorded, right? So most of the time it happens on the same day, but there are cutoff times. So it can be possible where your loan will fund on one day, but not be able to record with the city till the next day. And so you technically can't take possession of the home until it's legally in your name. And so even though you put your money in escrow, they have to wait until it's been recorded.
So after it records.
Right.
Okay. And that's typically 30 days or what does that look like?
From start to finish, yeah, you're looking at about 30 days. So something kind of cool right now that's been happening, they call it table funding. So before, years ago, you'd have to sign your final papers, then they would mail it to the lender for review, and then they would initiate the funding. Now they can just get an email. So you can literally have someone sign on a Friday.
Nice.
They email over the final papers, and the bank will fund it, and they'll be able to record it all same day.
When's my first payment on the house? Like what, after I get the keys?
It kind of depends on the date on the loan document. So typically, like right now we're doing this in March. So if the documents were in March, your first payment would be in May, right around 45 days out.
Just depending.
Yeah.
How do I find a good escrow company, or what should I look for?
In my experience, I've worked with, I would say, all of them, and they're all pretty good. So the people that do these jobs, you know, they're kind of like the hub of the whole transaction. And so they start early, they work late, and you know, they're very, very organized professionals, you know, the escrow agents. And typically they have 1 or 2 assistants as well. So you can always get a hold of somebody. You know, they keep everything very detailed.
Who's some people in your area that you recommend?
I work with Fidelity, First American Title. And so, like I said, they're all good. It's just, you know, it's all, you know, based on relationships as well. Everyone has different personalities, but they're very helpful.
Awesome. Well, thanks for explaining escrows to us. We'll have to dive in even more next time.
Yep, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, cool.
Thanks for watching my video. To learn more tips and tricks how to save money or make money in any real estate market, please like and subscribe. My goal is to keep giving you valuable content that you can use. Any questions, please comment. Thank you.